All right, Sam, let's talk a little Texas recruiting because the Horns have been the talk of July, surging into the top five. Tyler Atkinson, the big flip of James J.J. Johnson. Now, that class still has a few spots remaining to fill, but 2027 is heating up. We don't want to fall behind here. Let's talk in-state quarterback Caven Bryant. Are the Horns making him a priority?
Absolutely. Listen, AJ Milwee and Steve Sarkisian have offered two quarterbacks in the 2027 class. The first being Peyton Houston, who myself and Steve Wilfong have entered picks for USC with Pop Houston.
Mm-hmm.
We expect him to come off the board sometime during his junior season. And they offered Cavian Bryant out of Palestine High School out there in East Texas this summer. He wowed that staff during elite camp on June 1st. He picked up an offer, and since June 15th, guess what? Steve Sarkisian and AJ Milwee were the first teams in touch with him. They haven't taken their foot off the gas with Cavian. Florida State, SMU, Texas Tech are all swinging away here, but Texas is the team setting the pace in this recruitment. They don't offer a lot of quarterbacks, and when they zero in, history shows that they tend to get their guy. I like where they're sitting early on with Cavian as he's exploring his options further.
All right, so much to talk about when it comes to the Horns in 2027, but we're going to focus on the trenches to finish this segment. So, where are the top targets on the offensive line standing with Texas in 2027?
Yeah, we talked about Kennedy Brown just a moment ago with Texas A&M. Well, Kyle Flood and the Longhorns, they've made a habit out of keeping some of the best offensive linemen in the state. They were leading for a good chunk of time with Felix Ojo. They're hoping not to make a similar stumble toward the back end with someone like Kennedy Brown. Speaking with Kennedy at Future 50 last month, he said Flood, Sarkisian, the Longhorns, they're giving him every reason to stay home. He has a national recruitment. You look at someone like Ismael Kamara out of East Texas. He's originally from France. He's the number 3 interior offensive lineman in the country for 2027. He loves Kyle Flood. He was able to get an early offer from Texas. He's worked out there over the summer. He's a guy that's very high on the Longhorns early on, along with A&M. And then Demarion Johnson, another East Texas offensive tackle. When it comes to offensive tackle, Kyle Flood has been exceptional evaluating the state of Texas, and this is a guy that he really fell in love with and offered in January. He's visited Austin a few times. He worked out there this summer. He's another big blue chip offensive lineman that the Longhorns are high on in the state of Texas for 2027.
All right. How about on the defensive side of the ball, on the defensive line? Who are the Horns trending for when it comes to 2027 top recruits?
Yeah, we talked about Jalen Brewster with Texas A&M. Texas is also in the mix there. He worked out in Austin, but let's throw a couple more names at you. Zane Rowe at the Rivals 300, a one-time Sooners verbal commit as an underclassman, has visited Austin a few times since reopening his recruitment and backing off that Sooners verbal. He says he knows every single coach on a first and last name basis over in Austin. He's definitely a name to keep an eye on out of Dallas. Adrian Redmond also worked out for this staff last month. He's playing for DeSoto High School. You know that DeSoto has a couple of alums playing on the 40 acres. This is a guy that Kenny Baker and Steve Sarkisian love on the defensive line. Caden McCartney of Rivals 300 Edge out of Houston, very high on the Longhorns, born for next year in state. And then Amari Vickerson, a national recruitment, a big defensive lineman out of the Houston area. Texas and Texas A&M seem to be going back and forth with Amari Vickerson. I like where Texas sits early on in that recruitment, though.
All right.